Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Welcome to the Cosmic Forecast for September 2019. I'm Krista.
I'm Olivier.
And we're going to be talking about initially Virgo because we are now in Virgo. We have quite a few planets in Virgo. And also Saturn is really featuring strongly this month, as well as some other things. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to mention for those of you that like to follow the quarter moons is on Thursday, September 5th, we have our first quarter moon in 13 degrees of Sagittarius, 15 minutes at 8:10 p.m. And then we jump to Friday, the 13th. It's going to be a full moon, the harvest moon, in 21 degrees Pisces in 5 minutes at 9:33 p.m. And I have a fun little fact about Friday the 13th. There is a specific phobia associated with it, and it is hopefully pronounced paraskevidekatriaphobia. It was a Dr. Donald Dawsey that gave it that name, and he said if you could pronounce that, you would be cured of your phobia. So
Wow.
I thought it was funny.
That's helpful.
So I heard a couple different pronunciations in the dictionary, so I don't know which is right to tell you the truth. So it's something like that, but there's a long name for every phobia you can imagine.
I wanted to say about the number, Friday the 13th. It's really easy to find out when we're going to have one every in a specific month, and it's when you have a Sunday first. So 13 days later, it's Friday the 13th. So it's really easy. And the phobia about the number 13 is they say it's about Christ when they had the, how you call it, the dinner with the 13 people.
Last Supper.
The Last Supper, and that's why there's a phobia about it, because somebody betrayed Jesus. And that's why the number 13, never in France, you never have a dinner with 13 people. It's bad luck.
I've also heard that it was the day that they rounded up the Templars.
Yeah.
The 13th. So I don't know if it's
There's
the
a
day
lot
they
of
rounded up. So there's a lot of
meanings to it.
So I know it's a karmic number, and it definitely has a lot of interesting things around the number itself. And that's actually, I don't know the name of it, that's actually a separate phobia. Then there's one for Friday the 13th, which is the one I said, and there's one for the number 13. So it's going to be a nice full moon in some ways. It's in Pisces, and so that'll be a good time to do anything mystical, dreamy, creative. So it'll be great for people doing readings and doing metaphysical work, I would think. If you wanted to do past life regression, that might be a good time to do it. Be careful of overindulgence in the alcohol and drugs. Anything that's an escapist thing with the Pisces.
And the name, the harvest moon, was I read that Native Americans gave a name to each month because there's a special event every month, but that's the only one they didn't give the name to, harvest moon, because it's closer to the fall equinox. So that's why they gave this name harvest. I really like this name, actually.
Yeah, I do too. It makes a lot of sense. Did you want to add anything else to the full
No, I
moon?
was asking, did you say the full moon is in Pisces?
Yep, that's what I found.
Okay, so I got the wrong one.
Yep. We can look right now if you like, but I'm pretty sure it was in Pisces. In fact, we will look right now since we want to make sure, because this is my handy ephemeris. I love Jim Maynard's because he has it on every day, and also he has the ephemeris in the back, so you can kind of go to September 13th right now, and it is in Pisces. Yes, it's in Pisces. It's I don't know if it's a different sign no, it's the same. It's on a different day on the East Coast because of the time. So I use Pacific time. Yeah, because there's some hours differences between the two. So the next Saturday on the 14th, we have both Mercury and Venus. They're going to be changing into the signs of Libra. And Mercury first at 15 minutes a.m. and then 6:43 a.m. is Venus. Did you have something you wanted to say about that? I think you said earlier.
No, but I think there's a Mercury and Venus going into the being in Libra this September is really interesting because Libra is about balance, and so you can go either way. You can go like right or left. Like you have to balance what Mercury is about communication. So you're gonna have to balance what you're talking about, or you can go angry, you can go like aggressive, you can go calm, but you have to find a middle point. And Venus is about love and expression and beautiful things. So I think that's really interesting because Venus is the ruler of Libra, that fly. And so it's going to be in its own sign, and Mercury is Gemini. So I think there's a lot of balancing in September. And I remember saying on our last show about forecast for August, I was in the Virgo, and I was saying that this month, the end of August, is about cleaning up the house. Remember that thing?
Yes.
And I think this is like a theme going on, a trend like going on with next month. And after cleaning, there's finding your balance and starting to go, as I always say, like for whatever you want again.
I want to go back a little. I kind of skipped over something important that the sun is in Virgo in the beginning of the month. And we didn't talk a lot about just what Virgo is about in our last show. And I know a lot of you know about Virgo, but I think it's one of those signs that gets also has some, misrepresentation,
like
I would say, like a bad rap. And so I really like Stephen Forrest in general in his book, The Inner Sky. It's a basic astrology book, and I like a lot of his work, and I've had readings from him because he's pretty fair-minded about all the signs. So, of course, we know that Virgo is a mutable earth sign. And he, in his books, Stephen Forrest assigns different archetypes to each of the signs. And for Virgo, he assigns the servant, the martyr, the perfectionist, and the analyst. And he also talks about how important a meaningful work is for Virgo. And that seems to be true from the Virgos that I know. Also, the balance for you, Virgo, is because of its perfectionism and self-criticism. What Stephen Forrest says, it must be tempered by absolute self-acceptance. So that seems to be the case of wherever you have Virgo in your chart, is that Virgo, you want to keep that great, sharp, analytical, critical mind, but it can turn on you and it can turn on other people. So the idea is this sort of, Steve Forrest talks about Virgo being the first sign after the other one starting in Aries to really want to purify the self. So it's almost like the earlier signs are developing the personality and in different capacities in the body. And so he says, when you get to Virgo, that's the purification of things. And it's also to serve others, to give to others, not really to be a servant in the sense, but I'm doing things to help others, to serve others. And of course, being an earth sign, it can be quite down to earth and practical and very grounded. So I wanted to just throw that out a little bit so people, understand that there's a lot to Virgo. I also find Virgos can have a great sense of humor myself, kind of very dry, humor. And they can be very good with detailed work. So I would say that the earlier part of the month, it does seem easier sometimes, even if we're not a Virgo or we don't have any prominent energy in Virgo, to just generally work with the energies. And I find if you have some work that requires analysis, like editing, or you want to clean things out, you were saying that the house cleaning, it's just easier. Like the flow is there to do it. Like, I don't even mind doing it this month, Yeah. So that's one idea of working with astrology so that you're in harmony with the cosmos.
Yeah. It's a very discrete sign, I would say. It's like Capricorn. They have a little bit of a similarity. They're both earth signs anyways. But there's something about the Virgo that's... my sister is a Virgo, and she's really... she can go crazy and laugh like crazy. And she's very discreet and quiet. She thinks a lot and she's very emotional. But I like Virgo.
Well, and that's a good point. People think earth signs for some reason aren't as emotional, maybe except for Taurus. They think they are. But it's actually yin. The earth signs are feminine. And they show their emotions in different ways. So, I think personally all signs have emotions. And they just display them in a certain way. So if I have an air sign, I'm going to talk or think, but that doesn't mean I don't have feelings.
Exactly.
So there's
it's an introverted sign, I think, Virgo.
Yeah, I would think it does seem like it is a little introverted,
a lot
actually.
of introspection.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
Going on. So we talk about the moon a little bit.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about the moon cycles and the new moons and the full moons. And I was thinking about this yesterday. And people do like rituals for the new moon and the full moon. A lot of full moon for some reason, which is the ending of the cycle. So for me, it's kind of strange starting and do rituals. Maybe you have manifested that. And since the moon is the ruler of the Cancer, and Cancer is emotion, and the moon is about emotions, I don't really agree with doing rituals about manifesting things. I would more likely think that it's a new moon is made for like working on your emotions and planning things, how to deal with those emotions, instead of like wanting to manifest something physical in the 3 dimension. And I think that the harvest moon is about like harvesting what you've been sowing in the spring. And it's like a long cycle, and now you're gonna maybe see what you've planted and what it is. And maybe with the emotions you can see what they are. And because of Mercury and Libra and Mercury and Venus in Libra, it's the time to get those emotions balanced.
Well, I think one of the reasons why the full moon is seen as a ritual time is, at least in Aradia and in witchcraft, it is said that you can do any kind of magic on a full moon. That it's like kind of safe to do that.
See it
So maybe if I didn't have an ephemeris and I didn't know exactly how I can plot out my magic, it's just one of those moons you can do almost anything. That's what it's, I think, for generally. It makes sense, especially if you go back hundreds of years where people might not have known. But I tend to agree with you. It seems the more you kind of work with things consciously as the new moon, as the seed. I will disagree a little with Cancer just being about feelings. Since I'm a Cancer, I get kind of sort of like annoyed about that a little bit, because it's not really only what Cancer is about. It's also the 4th house. That's Cancer's house, which is your deep psychology. And if you think about, psychological things, it's sort of being able to penetrate into that world that it certainly has feelings, but has thoughts too. And I think it's a cardinal, all the cardinal signs, which is like, Capricorn, Aries, Libra, Cancer, they're for starting things. So if I had like a Cancer new moon, I could start something maybe that's connected to the theme of the 4th house or Cancer. But Cancer, because there's so many, all of the signs they're a little much more multidimensional, and they just like Virgo will get kind of pinned into something, or Capricorn, and so I don't think that it's the water signs are only about feelings. And I will also say that feelings are a huge part of success in magic. I know for myself that when I've really felt something and really wanted it, I've manifested it. But you have to be your heart fully engaged in it. So that was just accidental. Like I have a couple of times in my life, I got an apartment that way. I was so upset that in fact, it doesn't even have to be good feelings. You just have to have, I really want this, the like a little child. So I think that playfulness, but I kind of agree, if you can work with the theme of new moon's beginnings and full moon culmination, you're going to just use more power with it. You're using it more effectively, I would say.
And the moon is about reflection. For Cancer, that's what they do too. They reflect, and we were in Leo like this month, and the sun is Leo, so it's more like a shining. So you see, you have those two differences, and they follow each other as well. So it's a progression in a way, and going into an Earth sign, it's more like going back to Earth and being grounded, and finding your equilibrium and your balance. And I really like the thing that with Mercury and Venus getting into Libra. It's really interesting. Yeah, no,
and Libra is a very interesting sign for the metaphysical people. They're like, for instance, Aleister Crowley, his sun was in Libra. There's a lot of metaphysical people, I think, associated with the sign of Libra, which you don't always think about, but it's an air sign, and anything that's connected to air, they do seem to like to work with the mind, and they can actually have some unusual ideas. In the tarot, in at least Crowley's tarot, it's the Justice card is actually for Libra. And we'll get, of course, the sun will go. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we go to that, I do want to talk about Saturn. And on Wednesday, the 18th, Saturn will be going direct in 13 degrees of Capricorn, 55 minutes, at 1:47 a.m. So this, I've been thinking more about retrograde because of this wonderful book by Aaron Sullivan on retrograde planets. But it's really what I'm trying to convey how complicated a retrograde planet is. So this is actually the second time that Capricorn has gone retrograde since Saturn has gone retrograde since Saturn first moved into Capricorn. So the reason I'm bringing that up is basically retrograde is especially the outer planets, they're long-term processes. So this is where you might really want to know exactly where your Saturn is, or where Saturn is transiting your chart. And you would go back to, first of all, when it first moved into Capricorn, which was Wednesday, the December 20th, 2017. That's when Saturn first moved into Capricorn after, 30 years or so. So then it had its first retrograde, which was April 18th, 2018. And then it went direct September 6th, 2018. So then you'd kind of look at that time as well. And then, of course, we had retrograded April 30th of this year and now is going direct. So what happens with the retrograde, all the planets go either 3 or 4 times retrograde. That's why when people get all wound up about all the retrograde planets, they're happening every year.
All the time.
All the time. And what you want to start looking at is the process. And so it's kind of mowing over some of the same territory and it's trying to move it along. And you can actually even get some very precise things happening if you know when it stations direct and, all that, which is too complicated to get into here for sure. The reason it's sort of important is, for one reason, it being in the sign of Capricorn, it is in the United States chart. The second house is being lit up by 2 big players, Saturn and Pluto. Everyone knows about Saturn in astrology, knows that Saturn and Pluto are going to conjunct in February of next year, but not that many people are talking about the Pluto return, which is only in 2022. It's the first return since the United States formed as a country. So it's a huge deal. And it's in the second house of finances, money, values. And guess what happened when we had a square this past week between transiting Saturn and Saturn in Libra in the United States chart? We had crazy stock market stuff. And so it was perfectly timed. It's almost an exact square right now because, as I said, in the United States has a good Saturn. It's in, I think it's in the 10th house actually in Libra, and yet it's being squared by the transiting Saturn. So it's a pretty big deal what's going on in the chart. And then I was just going to mention, I know you want to talk a little about Saturn too, is that what Saturn does, I wrote a few things from Douglas Bloch and Demetra George's book because I really like her astrology too. And it's an astrology workbook that you can use for yourself. And we can talk about, first of all, Saturn likes being in Capricorn because it's ruler, so it's in a good placement. And the planetary ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, symbolizes, they say, the capacity to create order, form, and discipline in one's life. So wherever it is in your chart by house and sign, this is why you would want to go and find out. It often points to the areas where these feelings of limitations are most strongly felt. So you want to know where those are so that you can transform them through your basically restructuring things and disciplining things. It also, by the way, you might be able to tell if you're having Saturn issues because it rules the systems of the body which are connected to the skeletal, the structure, skin, teeth, joints, knees. I have a knee problem. I kid you not. And then also evidently the gallbladder, spleen, and hearing organs. That was the first I heard of that. So sometimes if you have, and I mean that, like, for instance, if it's repetitive and you know it's unusual, I've looked on my chart and I've seen something's going on in the area in my body that is ruled by that planet. So it does kind of help, actually. You can say, oh, I am having these themes, so let me look and see how I can handle it more consciously. So I think it's really important for a lot of reasons. Politically, I think it's really important, and I'll talk a little bit about the politics. But the one thing I want to say about Saturn is it does reward your work. It's one of those things, if you can figure out what it wants and you say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to work towards it, and you basically work the process, it's a good planet for rewarding you pretty much right away. You get the payoff right away. So you said you wanted to add something, I think.
Yeah, I was looking at astronomy, and Saturn is the second biggest planet closest to the sun. and it's made of hydrogen and helium. And I was laughing because I said, the perfection of the universe. Imagine there's like a comet on fire and it goes there. There was going to be a big explosion. And I was laughing and I said, how can it stay for so long and it doesn't explode? And it's amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And so I was reading yesterday about the Saturn being in Capricorn, is the ruler. And it says that it's going to be practical and realistic. We can have realistic goals. They will be easier to observe in the real world because Capricorn is an Earth sign, and also the Saturn represents the father, and Capricorn is the patriarch. So if you're talking about like the America and the restructuring of the money thing, I think that's really important because there's going to be something that's going to be presented, that's going to be revealed. I think with that because those are the Saturn is about learning the hard lesson the hard way. So you can't get away without learning the lessons because Saturn is going to present them. So since it's been retrograde, I think we had the time to learn the lesson, and now it's going to be the opportunity to use those lessons and to see if you really learn those lessons, and they might be represented to you in a tougher way, and those are made to help us grow as well, as you said a little bit, and we might getting some answers that are really tough. I think if you didn't learn those lessons for this retrograde period, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Saturn can definitely give you a blow. It's a little different from Pluto. So it's interesting that Pluto's in Capricorn, Saturn's in Capricorn. So I think Pluto will have the bigger destructive energy. Yeah. Saturn will help you rebuild and reform as long as you're cooperating, I feel. At least that seems like, both is going to kind of happen for the U.S. in terms of the economic system. Like, I think that's, we all know it really needs to change for a lot of reasons. And we're not quite getting it yet, as at least the people at the top.
Yeah, and it feels like it's a partnership between Pluto and Saturn. Like, okay, you have your lesson, and Pluto is the planet of rebirth and as well. So if you don't learn those lessons, they're going to be represented to you, but in a tougher way because Pluto is there to push it and to destroy the whole thing. And it's I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be easy.
I don't think it's going to be easy at all. I mean, because we don't seem to be learning through. We have choices we don't take that I think are a little better. And so I think we are still, as a country, still going to be going through things. Yeah. So, but I think that some of the shadow material coming out, the Pluto, is a healthy thing in the long run, but it's definitely very painful. Yeah. And that's going to continue, I'm afraid, at this point. We had a comment from Lori, who was interested in finding out more about some of the political candidates. And I did want to mention at least what I found out a little bit about the sun signs of presidents. So thank you, Lori, about your question about the candidates. I found out from an article, look at the zodiac signs of all the U.S. presidents in Business Insider, and it was written by Kane and Lee in July 1st, 2018. Turns out that the top two signs for presidents are Aquarius and Scorpio, with 5 in the past being Aquarius, 5 Scorpio. And then the 4 top ones are broken up between Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Libra, Pisces, and Taurus. And then we have 3 Sagittarius past presidents, 3 Gemini, including Donald Trump, 2 Aries, and 2 Virgo. So they were the bottom, Aries and Virgo. And of course, this is just the sun sign, but it was interesting to think about. And so I did look at some of the people running, what their sun signs were. And the one that Lori asked about, she wanted to know a little bit more, was Tulsi Gabbard. And unfortunately, she's an Aries, so she has that against her a little bit. And the other thing that was interesting, I did quickly look at her chart, is they don't have her birth time. So I did find a chart that they had tried to rectify her chart. And one of the things about her is she has 4 planets in Aries. And so she's a real warrior. And she had 2 terms in Iraq, and she has Sun, Moon, I think Mars, and Mercury, and I think the three of those are conjunct, all in Aries. And the rectified chart did put it in the 10th house, which is a very good placement for potential presidential people. So I don't think she has a good run for the president at this point. But looking at her chart in general, she had some interesting things, I think, as far as having a political career. She does have Pluto opposing all of that, though. And it looks like, so that can actually ground it, evidently. One person thought that was actually a good thing because it can kind of ground the energy. And then she had her sun exactly conjuncts the American Chiron in Aries. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, because it seems like she might be able to bring some light to some of the wounds in the United States and what the issues connected to Chiron and the fifth house of Chiron, which I'll maybe get into another time. But she had an interesting chart, but it doesn't look very promising for, a presidential run at this point, And I didn't have time to really look into Bernie's chart, but he is sun sign Virgo, which again, that sort of counts against him already, but I haven't looked at his chart yet, so I'll probably do that next time.
Maybe she can be a vice president.
Maybe, but like I said, I don't think this time her numbers are not that great at this point. There's a lot of people running. That's the other thing. And Elizabeth Warren is a Cancer, born on my birthday, June 22nd. I didn't know that. So and then Biden's a Scorpio, and Scorpios evidently are throughout the world. That sign is the most popular sign for world leaders is Scorpio, believe it or not. I would have thought it was Capricorn.
Or Leo.
But Scorpio, yeah. I mean, Leo and Capricorn, they have good placements.
Clinton,
So that was a little bit about just the politics of it all. So did you want to add something about Saturn?
I think I've said it all for now.
Okay. So then we come to the last quarter moon is September 21st, and that's going to be 28 degrees of Gemini, 49 minutes at 7:41 p.m. And Monday on the 23rd, we have the autumn equinox and the sun moving into Libra at 51 a.m. So that'll be a good day to do some kind of ritual. I know a lot of people like to do things on the equinox.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans for doing anything on the equinox, or do you like to?
No, I'm going to be working, I think.
You're working? Yeah, I think I will too, mostly too.
It's a Saturday?
It's a Monday.
A Monday? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that's when we'll talk a little bit more about the sign of Libra next time, since that'll be
We'll be in the midst of it.
We'll be in the midst of it overall, and it's a great sign to talk about. And then finally, we finish the month on September 28th with a new moon, and that's in 5 degrees of Libra, 20 minutes at 11:26 a.m. So new moon in Libra. So this is where, I guess you could say if you have some romantic inclinations, this is a good time to make some wishes for your love life, balance in your life. What else? Justice, beauty. Libra is associated with just beauty.
Venus.
Like I said, justice as well. So that would be a good time to work with those intentions, I think. So that's basically what I wanted to cover for this month. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm good.
I think we have
covered
enough
a lot today.
We covered a lot today, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
And we will be back again in another month with the next month's astrology. So we hope you have a great month and stay cosmic.
Stay balanced.
And balanced.
Yes. Bye-bye.